Listen up because what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind. This is the story of Ryuto Kageyama, and trust me when I say this kid's life was more twisted than a pretzel factory. You think you know drama, you think you've seen betrayal. Nah man, you haven't seen anything yet. So let's start from the beginning. Ryuto grew up thinking he was nobody special, just another kid in Tokyo, with a single mom working 3 jobs to keep the lights on. His mom Akemi never talked about his father. Never. Every time little Ryuto asked, she would get this look in her eyes like she was staring into hell itself, and she'd change the subject real quick. But when Ryuto turned 23, everything changed. See, his mom got sick. Real sick cancer, the kind that doesn't play around, and on her deathbed, literally her last few hours, she grabbed his hand and said, "Son, there's something you need to know about your father." Now, Ryuto had imagined this moment 1,000 times. Maybe his dad was a soldier who died in service. Maybe he was a businessman who got killed in an accident. Maybe he was just a deadbeat who ran off, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared him for the truth. "Your father," she whispered, "is Takeshi Kageyama." Ryuto just stared at her. That name meant nothing to him until she added, "He's the CEO of Kageyama Industries, one of the richest men in Japan. And you're his only biological son." Hold up, what? The Takeshi Kageyama, the guy who was worth like $8 billion, the guy whose face was on every business magazine, the guy who had a perfect family, a beautiful wife, 2 accomplished daughters, the guy was his father. But here's where it gets nasty. Akemi told him everything. 24 years ago, she was a secretary at Kageyama Industries. Young, beautiful, ambitious, Takeshi was already married to Yuki, a woman from old money, a marriage arranged by their families to merge to business empires. But Takeshi and Akemi, they had something else: passion, raw, unfiltered chemistry that neither of them could resist. They started an affair, secret meetings in hotel rooms, stolen moments in the office after everyone went home. And then Akemi got pregnant. When she told Takeshi, he panicked. His wife Yuki couldn't have children, medical issues, but the family had covered it up to save face. If the truth came out that he had a bastard son with his secretary, it would destroy everything: his marriage, his business, his reputation. So Takeshi made Akemi an offer, 5 million yen, to disappear and never contact him again. Never tell anyone, raise the child alone. Akemi was young and scared, and she took the money. She thought she was doing the right thing, but that money ran out fast when you're trying to raise a kid in Tokyo. She worked herself to the bone while Takeshi lived in his mansion and pretended she never existed. And now she was dying, and the guilt was eating her alive. "Ryuto, I know I failed you," she cried, "but you deserve to know who you really are. You deserve what is rightfully yours." She died 3 hours later. Ryuto sat there in that hospital room, numb. His whole life had been a lie. He was nobody. He was the heir to a fortune, the true bloodline of the Kageyama family, and his father had paid his mother to disappear. That rage, man, that burning white hot rage started building in his chest. So here's what Ryuto did. He took the evidence. His mom left him old photos, documents, letters, even a DNA test she had done secretly years ago, and he hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, he hired Kenji Sato, the most ruthless attorney in Tokyo, the kind of guy who would sue his own grandmother if the price was right. They scheduled a meeting with Takeshi Kageyama. When Ryuto walked into that corner office on the 40th floor, he finally came face to face with his father. Takeshi was in his 60s, now silver hair, expensive suit, that calm, powerful presence. But when he saw Ryuto, his face went white. He knew exactly who this young man was. Ryuto didn't waste time. He threw the documents on the desk. "I'm your son," he said, "and I can prove it. The DNA test shows 99.9% match. You paid my mother to disappear, and now I'm here to collect what's mine." Takeshi tried to play it cool. He offered Ryuto money, a lot of money, 10 million yen, to go away just like his mother. But Ryuto laughed in his face. "I don't want your hush money, old man," he said. "I want my birthright. I want my name on that family register. I want the world to know I'm a Kageyama. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to every newspaper and media outlet in Japan." See, this is where things get interesting. Takeshi was stuck. His wife Yuki still didn't know he could have kids. His 2 daughters, Hana and Sakura, were adults now, successful in their own right, but they weren't blood. They were adopted, though the public didn't know that either. The whole perfect family image was built on lies. So Takeshi made a deal. He would privately acknowledge Ryuto as his son. He would give him a position in the company, but Ryuto had to keep quiet about the affair. He had to play along with the family image, and eventually, when the time was right, he would make Ryuto his successor. Ryuto agreed, not because he trusted the old man, but because he wanted in. He wanted to infiltrate that perfect little family and take everything from the inside. So Ryuto moved into the Kageyama estate, the massive compound with gardens and koi ponds and servants everywhere. Takeshi introduced him to the family as the son of an old friend who would be working at the company and staying with them. Yuki, the wife, was elegant and cold. She looked at Ryuto with suspicion, but said nothing. Hana, the older daughter, was 25, cold, ambitious, obsessed with taking over the company someday. She saw Ryuto as competition immediately. But Sakura, oh man, Sakura, she was 23, same age as Ryuto, beautiful, long dark hair, eyes that could stop your heart, delicate features, but with this fire underneath. And she was kind, actually genuinely kind. She welcomed Ryuto warmly, showed him around, helped him adjust. They started spending time together. Late night talks in the garden, working late at the company office, grabbing coffee before meetings. And then it happened. They fell for each other, real deep, passionate, can't breathe without you kind of love. 3 months after Ryuto moved in, they were sneaking around like teenagers, secret kisses in empty hallways, hotel rooms on the weekends when they could get away, text at 3 in the morning. It was intense. It was forbidden. It was everything, but Ryuto was living a double life. By day, he was getting closer to Sakura, falling harder every moment. By night, he was plotting his revenge. He was learning the business, finding weaknesses, discovering where Takeshi was vulnerable. He befriended Hana, played to her ego, got her to trust him. He gained Yuki's confidence slowly, becoming like a real son to her. And the whole time, he was sleeping with Sakura, who had no idea who he really was. Then, one night after 6 months of this, Sakura whispered in the dark, "I love you, Ryuto. I know this is crazy, and my father would kill us if he knew, but I don't care. I want to be with you." And Ryuto looked into those eyes, and he realized something terrifying. He loved her too. Like really, truly loved her. This was part of the plan. He was supposed to use her to get close to the family. He was supposed to betray them all, but now he was into deep. So he made a choice. He decided to tell her everything. One weekend, they went to a cabin in the mountains, just the two of them, and Ryuto sat her down and told her the whole truth, who he really was, who his mother was, the affair, the payoff, everything. Sakura just stared at him. Then she started crying, not because she was disgusted, but because she was relieved. You want to know why? Because Sakura was Takeshi's biological daughter. Either she already knew she was adopted, and she had always felt like an outsider in that family. So when Ryuto told her the truth, she felt this weird connection, like they were both pretending to belong to a family that wasn't really theirs. "I don't care," she said. "I'm not going to lose you. We can figure this out together." They made a pact right there. They would expose Takeshi together. They would tear down his empire of lies. They would build something real from the ashes, but they needed evidence, real evidence, that would destroy Takeshi completely. So they started digging. Ryuto used his position in the company to access files. Sakura used her relationship with her father to get into his private study. And what they found was so much worse than they imagined. Takeshi hadn't just had one affair. He had dozens over the years, and Ryuto wasn't his only illegitimate child. There were at least 3 others that they could find evidence of, all paid off, all silenced. And there's more. Takeshi had been embezzling money from the company for years, hiding it in offshore accounts, cooking the books. If this came out, he wouldn't just lose his reputation, he would go to prison. Ryuto and Sakura gathered everything. Documents, bank statements, photos, testimonies from former employees. They built a case that was absolutely bulletproof, and they were ready to strike. But then Hana found out the older sister had been suspicious of Ryuto from the beginning. She had been watching him, following him, and she saw him and Sakura together. She saw them sneaking around, and she started putting pieces together. One night, she confronted Ryuto alone in the company office. "I know who you are," she hissed. "I know you're that woman's son, the secretary whore." Ryuto didn't deny it. "And what are you going to do about it?" he asked. Hana smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "I'm going to use it," she said. "I don't care about father or his lies. I care about this company, and if you help me take it from him, I will let you have your revenge. We can destroy him together, and then we split everything 50-50. Ryuto was stunned. This woman was more ruthless than he ever imagined. She didn't care about family. She didn't care about loyalty. She just wanted power, and she was willing to betray her own father to get it. Ryuto pretended to consider it, but that night he told Sakura everything. They realized they were running out of time. If Hana made a move, they would lose control of the situation, so they decided to pull the trigger. The next day was the annual shareholders meeting, the biggest event of the year. All the major investors would be there. The media would be there. It was the perfect stage. Ryuto and Sakura showed up with a USB drive full of evidence and a lawyer on standby. When Takeshi stood up to give his speech, Ryuto stood up to "Excuse me," he called out. "But I think the shareholders deserve to know who they're really investing in." The room went silent. Takeshi stared at him, his face going pale. "Don't," he warned, but Ryuto walked to the front of the room. He plugged in the USB drive, and he showed everything. The affairs, the illegitimate children, the embezzlement, the lies. Video testimony from Akemi recorded before she died, DNA evidence, financial records. Everything. The room erupted. Shareholders were shouting. Reporters were filming. Yuki, the wife, looked like she was going to faint. Hana was screaming, demanding that security remove Ryuto, but Sakura stood up. She walked to the front and stood beside Ryuto. She backed up every word he said. She confirmed the evidence. She told the room that she had helped gather this information because the truth needed to come out. Takeshi just stood there, broken, exposed, destroyed. Within an hour, the police arrived. Takeshi was arrested on embezzlement charges. The company's stock crashed. The media went insane. It was the biggest scandal in Japanese business history, and Ryuto finally got his revenge. But here's where it gets twisted. 3 days after the scandal broke, Ryuto got a call from a lawyer, not his lawyer, a different one. This lawyer represented someone named Masaki Yamamoto, and Masaki claimed to be another one of Takeshi's illegitimate children, but not just any child. She was 30 years old, 10 years older than Ryuto, and she had evidence that she was the oldest biological child of Takeshi Kageyama, which meant, according to Japanese inheritance law, she had a stronger claim to the Kageyama fortune than Ryuto did. Ryuto met with her. Masaki was sharp, intelligent, and cold as ice. She had been planning this for years, waiting for the right moment to strike, and Ryuto had given her the perfect opening. She didn't want to work together. She wanted to take everything. I was here first, she said, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Ryuto realized in that moment that his revenge had opened a Pandora's box. There were more siblings out there, more secrets, more people who wanted a piece of what Takeshi had built, and they were all ready to go to war. But the worst part, the part that really gutted him, Sakura started pulling away. After the scandal, she became distant, stopped answering his calls, avoided him at every turn. Finally, he confronted her. What's going on? He demanded. I thought we were in this together. Sakura looked at him with tears in her eyes. We were, she said, but I can't do this anymore. Ryuto, when I helped you, I thought we were exposing the truth. I thought we were doing the right thing. But now I see what this really is. It's just greed, everyone fighting over money and power, and I don't want to be part of it. You said you love me, Ryuto shouted. I do, she cried. But I can't watch you turn into him, into your father. You're so focused on taking everything that you can't see what you're becoming. As she walked away, just like that, the one real thing in his life gone, Ryuto stood there alone. He had destroyed his father. He had exposed the truth. He had gotten his revenge, but he had lost the only person who actually mattered. Now has locked in legal battles with multiple half-siblings fighting over an empire built on lies. The company is in ruins. The family name is destroyed, and Ryuto sits in his apartment, the same one his mother lived in before she died, and he wonders, was it worth it? Did he win? Or did he just become another casualty in his father's web of destruction? 3 weeks ago, Sakura sent him a letter, just one line. You had a choice between love and revenge. You chose wrong, and that's where the story ends for now. Ryuto Kageyama got everything he wanted and lost everything that mattered. The true heir to a scandalous affair, but heir to what exactly? A fortune covered in blood, and lies, a family that never really existed, and a love he destroyed with his own hands. So what do you think? Was Ryuto right to expose his father, or did his obsession with revenge cost him the only real thing he ever had? Sometimes the most dangerous path is the one that leads to our enemies. It's the one that leads us to become just like them, and Ryuto Kageyama learned that lesson too late. That's the end of this twisted tale, folks. If this story messed with your head, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that will keep you up at night, and drop a comment telling me, would you have chosen love or revenge? Because I guarantee you most people think they know the answer until they're actually standing at that crossroads. All right, I'm out. Stay dangerous.